I'd like to welcome everybody to the December 9th meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council, serving as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. We're going to open the machines for roll call.
The machine is not. Herbert, yes.
Right. And let the record reflect all council members are here except for
He's in the building.
Mr. LaFrance, who's just not with us just yet. Sure he'll be joining us soon. All right. Benny, would you like to lead us in the prayer?
Let's pray. We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for the parish's natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom. And we pray for our world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We pray that this government body, comprised of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do that which is right. Amen.
Amen. Dr. Gui is going to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank y'all very much.
Item 2, executive session, there is none. Item 3, status report by the Executive Deport Director.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chairman, and members of the board. I am Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. Follows is my Executive Director's report for the reporting period of 4 November to 8 December 2021. During this time frame, the staff conducted a budget review meeting with the board, and there were numerous due-outs as a result. The staff is working those due-out updates to the board, and they are presently delivering same as they are completed. The developer of the container terminal has chosen South Louisiana Economic Council, acronym SLEC, to build and maintain a vendor data management database of all companies desiring to register their organizations to compete for work projects. I have had multiple meetings with SLEC representatives to ensure a Plaquemines first modus operandi is being embodied regarding the captured data. I am working with SLEC on ways we can get more advertising to the public to qualify their businesses on the database. SLEC has performed similar functions for other projects over the years, and they have provided a lot of great ideas to be considered for maximum exposure. I will report on this engagement often. We are continuing our work with UNO regarding the updating the port tariff. This is an ongoing project, and updates will periodically be reported upon. We have had many meetings with the parish personnel regarding the ferry transfer from the Plaquemines Parish government to Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. I'd like to thank Todd Epley and Hilda Lott for their tireless work, as well as Joel Horton on the operational side, ensuring the transfer is as seamless as possible. Special note, I'd like to recognize Rennie Burris working with the port attorney to ensure all the I's and T's are dotted and crossed. Our stakeholders meetings with all folks involved in the container terminal continue monthly, and much progress is being made and timetables are being established and maintained. It is my intent to ask the design team to provide a design presentation to the board in the next few months. We have been coordinating with the United States Army Corps of Engineers as part of the container terminal permit process to ensure that the plan does not impact the navigational channel, or the levees. We have a strong relationship with the Corps, and they have been great to work with. We will be setting up regular technical meetings with their engineers to walk through the process. The Colonel and I are heading up this process. An update on the Mississippi River channel, ship channel deepening phase. And sorry for me reading this email, but I will be sending a copy to the board members. The United States Army Corps of Engineers, with input and alignment from representatives from the United States Coast Guard, pilot associations, and navigation industry, formalized a plan to revise the logistical approach to Phase 2 of the Mississippi River Ship Channel Deepening operations. The adjusted Phase 2 assignments will deepen the 4 southernmost downriver of the crossings above New Orleans, specifically a reach of the ship channel from Smoke Bend to Fairfield Crossing. However, updated channel surveys indicate sufficient depth to accommodate the deeper channel authorization, and the Glenn Edwards will work on other projects until needed again on the MRSC, Mississippi River Ship Channel. 2 of the 4 lower crossings have been either deepened or did not need dredging to accommodate the deeper channel dimensions, and a third is expected to be completed next week on Smoke Bend. The United States Army Corps of Engineers estimates the Phase 2 dredging operation could be completed by early December. And once again, I will forward a copy of this email to the board members. On my way down here, I got some really good news that I want to share with the board. I just received this from the DOTD that the word on towards the ferry, as I was making my way to the ferry, it appears that the water booster station project has been put into the port priority program. The port will be reimbursed for 90% of the construction of this cost. So that is very, very, very good news for our community and our budget. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, on my executive director's report, I'm thrilled I can finally publicly disclose the worst-kept secret in Plaquemines Parish. Paul Matthews, the port's deputy director, has received a unanimous board approval position as the executive director for the Port of South Louisiana and officially accepted it, and he will start next year. Paul took the reins of the port deputy director position following the tenure of John Pennison. He has greatly expanded the role as the former executive director of the Port of New Orleans, Gary LaGrange, told me he would. Gary, Paul's former boss, told me that Paul takes every extra job there is and does it cheerfully and with grace. In the last 5 or 6 years, Paul has proven to do exactly what Gary said he would. Paul has endeared himself to the staff and to many in the community, and I cannot think of a better person to fill the executive director's position at the largest port in the Western Hemisphere in tonnage. There are many projects I have collaborated with Paul Oakland, his predecessor, prior to his departure, and I look forward to keeping working with Paul to bring life to those projects. Paul, from all the staff at the PPHTD, we wish you success and happiness. We are a better port as a result of your leadership, and go and do great things. Incidentally, Paul's selection may be the youngest executive director in Louisiana history, and he is the first African American to ever hold such a position in this state. So, Paul, congratulations. Come on. Mr. Chairman, subject to your questions or comments from the board or the crowd, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Sandy, and congratulations, Paul, on your new job upstream. Commissioner Black?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to take this opportunity to personally thank you, Paul, for everything you've done for the port. You know, I was a chairman when you got hired on, and it was a lengthy process. I mean, we had a number of candidates. I know a couple of us up here were on that committee. And you won that job overwhelmingly. It was very impressive, and I felt at the time, and I feel even more so now, that we were happy and lucky to get you. Unfortunately, we're losing you, but I think it's the right decision for you and your family. I wish you the best. I think there will be some good collaboration in the future between you and Sandy and all two respective boards. I'll still serve with you on GNO Inc.'s Next Gen, hopefully. They don't make you get off, or maybe might go to the big boy table at the GNO Inc. regular board, so I might lose you there, but I think I'm aged out anyway, so I gotta get off. But, no, Paul, personally, man, you've been stand-up guy, class act. You take the punches, you don't throw them. You've been absolutely professional. And outside of that, I consider you a friend, and I wish you luck.
All right, Commissioner Newberry.
You're going to make me cry. You know, Paul, I just want to thank you for everything you have done for me on a personal level. You have taken me under your wing when I first came in and taught me a lot about ports, how they operate. You've sent me to conventions telling me you should go. It's a lot to learn. It's, you know, you educated me is what you did. And I really appreciate everything you have done for me. And not just for me, for this parish. You have put a lot of your hard work and your time. You have, like Bo said, you took a lot of punches and you stood there respectfully. I'm so proud of you and the position that you have earned. Evidently, the Port of South Louisiana has seen something in you, and I'm so happy that they've chose you. So I just wish you the best of luck, and I'm sorry to see you go, but best wishes to you and your family, and good luck.
Thank you, Commissioner Newberry. Commissioner Gui.
Well, Paul, I know we've talked a lot over the last few years. You came aboard when I was not on board, and Sandy said great things about you, and they were all true. And I've seen you in action. I've seen your professionalism. I'm very proud to have been working side by side with you. I know the Port of South Louisiana is very fortunate to get you. I think that this is a great move for you and your family and your career. And I just want you to know that I will continue to see your fingerprints after you're gone. This is not like a goodbye, because I know we've developed a great relationship and we'll continue to have contact, but best wishes to you.
Thank you, Dr. Gui. Commissioner Bartholomew.
Just the symbolic thing we say in a musical song was that the storm is passing over. The storm has passed over. And you're about to move into a new venture. And I believe your time here has well prepared you for where you're headed. And there's no doubt in my mind that you will be very successful at your mission to accomplish the objectives that have been set forth. As a person, I respect you, and I think you have a lot to offer the state of Louisiana and the maritime, the ports of Louisiana, because you are a true compassionate person when it comes down to that. So again, as a person, I really want to let you know how much we appreciate you, the years that you've been here. You weathered the storm in a decent way. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bartholomew. Cognovich.
I'd like to congratulate you and wish you luck on your next endeavor. I didn't hold it against you being a Tulane graduate, because I know you like championship wrestling and all.
The colors, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Congratulations and good luck, Paul. It's good working with you. All right. Moving along the agenda. Oh, Mr. Henry, how are you today?
Colonel. Hey, Paul, we're going to miss you, man.
when you first came, I wasn't too hip on the idea, but over the period of time you were here, you made a believe out of me, man. You really did. I'm glad to see you a boss now. You're gonna be the boss now. And hey, I want an invitation to your office to come see you, man.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. All right, moving along, please.
Item 3A, financial report, budget to actual.
Sure, Mr. Valley.
Donald Valley. At the last port meeting, I inquired about the status of various activities that you all have approved in the past as to where we were with those. At that time, Commissioner LaFrance requested that the Executive Director prepare for this meeting a detailed line item report on the status of every project that we have coming. I was wondering if he could do that now.
Mr. Chairman, that's what you and I talked about, taking the new business and moving up right after this.
Certainly.
We're ready.
Got it. Okay.
What is that, Mr. Chairman?
There's a few different items at the bottom of the agenda under new business, some of the different projects that are slated.
Is this going to be a full schedule of all the projects that Mr. LaFrance asked for, and I asked for? And the Executive Director said he would furnish to us at this time for the public?
Sandy,
It
did
was
you?
originally referred that we would have to go to the PAVI meeting to get this information. And Mr. LaFrance said, this is the public. We're not members of the PAVI. And we'd like to see all those status reports and all those individual projects
Let the
that you all
chairman
have
answer the
approved.
question. Let the chairman answer the question, Don.
So Sandy, did you prepare for that?
I am.
Okay, great.
Good.
You want to sit down or you want to stand up the whole
I'll
time? I've got
stand up.
presenters coming up
I'll
that
wait.
will be using the podium.
Sure.
Stacy, we're going to skip the financial report for now, and we'll go down to the bottom of the agenda under new business.
Okay, as Commissioner LaFrance requested, we are prepared to talk about the projects that we have going on. So first, I would like to talk about the Nola Oil Project. I have with us Mr. Christian Amadi, who will be the leadoff batter, and also talk towards your finances after that. Come on up, Christian. You have his slides? Okay.
Christian Amity, 120 Myrtle Grove Road, Nola Oil Terminal. Want to start with, thanking the board for stewarding this bond project through. A lot of work went into it. Want to also extend our continued appreciation for the continuation of the culmination of this bonds. We're building currently under construction on the two biggest docks that have ever been built in the history of the Mississippi River, right here in Plaquemines Parish. A press release went out yesterday to the world signaling that, Plaquemines is open for business down here. So it's a long time coming. Tell you a little bit more about the project, what we're building out there with the bond money. But this is truly the tip of the iceberg for Port of Plaquemines here. We got two projects that have broken ground down here. It's really happening, and the world is looking at us, and it's time for us to shine. Congratulations to everybody here, because it's not just us. It's kind of a team effort, and just want to thank y'all for the support.
We're going to tee up your slides.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Newberry.
Hi, Christian, how you doing?
Hey,
Thank
how
you
you
so
doing?
much. Thank you so much for showing up. I just want to reiterate your business here to the public. So we still going to be importing, exporting crude oil, or y'all have changed our business plan?
No, ultimately, at the end of the day, what you're going to have is a 10 million barrel, 4-dock import-export terminal pipeline connected.
Okay. And I guess I'm just curious, how is that different than what Phillips 66 did? Didn't they do the same thing? I'm just trying to see the difference in your project versus what they did. So can you explain that to me?
Phillips hasn't done anything. There's a lot of if, ands, and buts and question marks, and Phillips was in a process to sell that
Well,
refinery.
no, in the past, wasn't that with Phillips 66, did they import and exported oil, crude oil? Or
That's a refinery.
that was more of a refinery?
refinery.
Okay, that's why I asked the question. I just wanted to clarify that, because I'm not,
These two facilities work in harmony together.
that's what I thought.
So at the end of the day, it's anticipated that this facility could lend some ability to maybe help that refinery.
Okay, thank you very much.
What you see in here is a 10 million barrel built-out facility, 2 post-Panamax size ship docks, which normally don't come in the river because they can't fit underneath the bridge in New Orleans fully loaded. So we have the opportunity, being south of the bridge, to put twice the amount of cargo that's ever been loaded on the river in its history because of the deep draft and the air restrictions on the Mississippi River Bridge. So this is the final built-out version. What we're building right now is 3 of the 4 dock structures in the river. The barge dock is 50% fabricated. We'll start going in, we'll start driving piles in the river in January. Potentially can be completed and operational by the end of February. So you're going to see cranes on the horizon. You're going to see some real activity starting out there at the beginning of the year. Right off bat, there's a tremendous amount of construction activity for Venture Global, for our project, for IGP Methanol. We've bringing in a company that is going to, they're the largest aggregate suppliers in North America. They are going to offload all of the rock there, eliminating all the trucking coming up and down Highway 23. It's logistically, it couldn't be a better opportunity, and all of these points of taxation were going to happen outside of the parish. So now you're bringing all of these, incorporating them into a facility and making sure the tax base is centered here in Plaquemines. There's some other additional construction, let's call them lifts, that are going to come over the levee on this particular construction dock. It's almost fully subscribed at this point. The next 2 berths that we would be building, Sandy, go to that next slide, please.
You can.
I'm sorry.
You do it, you got it. Should be able to get to it.
Okay. Well,
Whatever you see.
you just got to tell me when I got to hit here. I don't want to mess you. Let's go to that one right there.
Full screen it, and then you can.
Go to that site plan. That's fine.
They need me to get up there.
But these post-Panamax or Suezmax ship docks, with the first initial construction are going to be called lay berths. The upriver ship dock, we are in negotiations with another local facility here in town to lease that out for them to be able to do a midstream operation and double their outbound capacity. So once again, keeping the business in Plaquemines Parish and helping facilitate another facility to be able to expand on their business. That is the dock that will be incorporated into the first 25% of the tankage land side, and that will be your first midstream oil crude export dock that's constructed in Plaquemines Parish. The second dock is the middle ship berth that you see on this site plan. We can talk about the site plan. Will be some other various cargo lifts coming over the river, not necessarily oil related, to also support other industries in Plaquemines Parish. The site plan that you see at the bottom is the aggregate offloading systems. You have 4 concrete batch plants, and also the precast concrete piling company from Pass Christiana, Mississippi, will be fabricating all those concrete precast piles right here in Plaquemines Parish. That's thousands and thousands of trucks that won't enter Highway 23. So exciting times here, just the tip of the iceberg, much more to come in the future. Thank you all once again. Appreciate it. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Audience? About Nola Oil Terminal? Yeah, hearing none. Thank you, Christian.
One?
I asked and I got laughed at, so.
Rob Forshey. Christian, I do want to thank you for putting this plan together and putting this project together. And your team, of course, it's not just you, of course, it's a team. I also want to thank Benny Russo for all of his work that has put this project together and tied it together. This has been a minimally involved port project. It has been and will be a major asset for this parish. And I just thank you for building this type of project, as well as not asking for any ITAP. If I understand correctly, there is no ITAP being asked for in this project, which is a major step forward for this parish. So, thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Fortune.
The next one is a discussion and update on the Plaquemines Liquid Terminal. This was Commissioner Rousseau's item in new business. I'll talk about the project and certainly open it up for any discussion that you have, Mr. Rousseau. I had asked Matt Kegg and Damon Daniels with Tallgrass if they could be here. They tried to move heaven and earth to do that. They could not, but they will be here at the first meeting in January to report on their project. But the parish council was given a heads-up letter that was sent by me, and also a subsequent letter that was sent by the CEO of Tallgrass, Mr. Bill Moeller. He sent the letter to the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Plaquemines Parish Council, and Ironton community leaders, stating that because of current market conditions, they had to make a change. We've all seen where it's very good and very vogue now to go carbon neutral. And with what happened with P66 and them going to a full river terminal, there was going to be probably, if PLT came online, it would be a surplus of storage. So they are committed to the site. They are committed to the community of Ironton. Matter of fact, I think today they delivered a check to the pastor of the church. And they are committed to memorializing the sacred ground, which was the Rosalie Plantation. They and also Paul and I have come up with a few ideas that have come our way as far as someone wanting to lease the property. But rest assured, it most likely will not be oil and gas related. As I stated, Damon will be here at the next meeting, and most likely Matt Kegg as well. Some specifics of the property itself, December next year of 2022, the property can be sold. It also would need permission from the council, but it has to be sold at fair market value. All that proceeds would go to Tallgrass. They are making a decision. They don't really want to sell it. They would rather lease it and commercialize it. And all proceeds would flow to Tallgrass up to the purchase price plus 12%. Anything after that would go towards the board. Mr. Rousseau, you have any questions? You want to dig in deeper?
No, I'll wait till they can make an appearance and listen to their presentation.
Good.
I just know that the timeline next December, something has to be done.
Yeah, turn into a pumpkin this time next year. Any questions from the audience?
Mr. Chairman, is there any risk to the parish and or the port? And is there any negative liability that could arise from this transaction falling through?
I don't know, it sounds like some folks are.
There is none.
No liability?
Nope.
Basically, the port owns the property at the present time, as I understand it.
That's correct.
And the funds to acquire this was provided by Tallgrass for the acquisition of it and with a lease back on it. Okay? And there's no obligation, no risk whatsoever.
None.
So what actions do we have to take at all moving forward?
Right now, we're trying to, they and we are assisting to get it commercialized.
I understand, as a dilemma. I mean, I understand that quickly. Okay. Well, there's no risk. I guess we can move forward.
Thank you.
Our next project is the Chs Grain Terminal, where we are presently assisting in grants. The final grant application is going forward today at 2 o'clock, and all the way up to 1 o'clock this afternoon, we had Teams meetings with the folks with CHS, both locally and up in Minnesota. Paul Matthews is going to walk us through that. Becky Niktakis has reported to us that they received a letter from the grant authority, and she said when you get a letter like this, it generally means you made the final cut. So it had a lot of questions in the letter that we remedied and sent off, but Paul, you want to walk us through the project?
Commissioners, last summer, we received, we had a meeting with CHS, last spring actually, had a meeting with CHS, and it came to our understanding that as we continue to see growth of export of grain out of the United States to the rest of the world, the CHS Myrtle Grove facility is not operating at its most optimal level. And it would take a lot of capital to get it to where it needs to be to maintain its market share and continue to grow. So this project was a business retention and expansion project, essentially. So we recognize that the Port Infrastructure Development Grant would allow the port to partner with CHS, a current operator, a current taxpayer, to increase their investment in the parish. So the grant application to the feds would be for us to get $20 million from the federal government. But there needs to be a match. Anytime you do a federal grant, you got to have at least a 20% match. Now, if you're able to go over 20%, it gets you to the head of the line, along with being shovel ready. And so CHS is putting up the match, but instead of 20%, they're putting up a 40% match. And there's no cost to the port whatsoever in receiving this grant. So the idea is that these funds would go to building a new dock and a conveyance system to create more efficiency for CHS. As a result of being able to get this grant, if we're awarded it, hopefully very soon, then CHS will then invest, along with the $14 million, an additional, originally $80 million, and it's now up to $97 million, all within the last 5 months because of construction costs that's a result of the supply chain disruptions. So being able to get this grant money is very critical to their operations moving forward and expansion. 2 days ago, we received an email from the grant program asking for additional information and clarification. And as Sandy stated, Ms. Natakis noted that this was a good sign because they're about to make decisions and they want to make sure they have all the information. Now, I will say this, that Senator Cassidy, Senator Kennedy, and our Congressman Steve Scalise has been aware of this project from day one. They have put out letters of support or had their staff reach out to find more information. So they are on it, they understand it, and they want to make sure it gets through. So our lobbying team with David Vitter and Kyle Ruckert have been working with the staff of Kennedy, Cassidy, and Scalise to make sure this moves forward. I believe Senator Cassidy, through the work with Vitter, is actually reaching out to the Secretary of Transportation, Buttigieg, to make him aware of the importance of this project. And as you all know, Senator Cassidy is one of the most influential United States senators currently due to his work on the infrastructure bill and is considered an ally with the current administration. So we hope in the next few days that we can get a positive answer out of the feds for this grant for the folks at CHS. And as soon as we do, we will make the board aware of it.
Okay, the next project will be the rail project. We have Chris Fetters here, who is the port developer on this.
Oh, jeez. Sounds like someone's sonar is going off.
The cookies are done.
Are they good? That's the question, right? Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Fetters, Louisiana 23 Development Company. First, I apologize for missing the last couple of meetings, as Sandy probably made you aware, had some family issues. Again, thank you, Mr. Kognovich, for your condolences last time. I do appreciate that. It means a lot to the family. Second, congratulations, Paul. Huge new opportunity. Look forward to what comes next. And same congratulations to Christian and those at Nola Terminal. It's definitely a lot of positive, good news for what's going on. Where we are with the mainline project is we have made some significant success. Post the approval by the board in July, we went through a very long contractual negotiations as the asset developer for SP that concluded mid-August with our master services agreement with them. And then about a month later, we were able to complete what's referred to as the project addendum, which provides the scope, cost estimates, and milestone objectives in order to be able to get to the project. As you know, it's a multi-step program. What the board approved in July was just the first of 4 stages at the $3.25 million. And then there's a process that we go through on a pay application series back to SP that the board has copied, or port has copied on, excuse me, for where the funds are used with regard to the project. Since that time, we have had the first release of funds. Those funds have been utilized as we proceed forward. We really began in probably mid-November once we got everything sorted out with sustainability partners. Since that time, we have collected and executed the vendor database integration into the project. Sandy probably can mention a little bit about that. We've got an organized vendor database system. We've partnered with the South Louisiana Economic Council as a third party just to receive potential vendors' information so that it can be tracked properly, so that there's any questions or other objectives by the port, the board, or the people of the parish. We're using a third party in order to do that. They are not there to rank anything off, but just simply collect information, and we will continue to put that out there more and more as we advance the project so that local vendors can be identified and utilized into the different projects, including the main line. The primary vendor selection has been completed. Due to a request by sustainability partners, we have engaged with Volkert Engineering to help us as the PMCM, which is the project manager and construction manager for the project. That contract has been completed. Volkert is now fully onboarded and proceeding forward with assisting us. With that, we have also engaged and completed the contracts pending final execution by the engineering for the environmental, geotechnical, and the survey groups. We are waiting on one engineering contract to be done to make sure that there's no changes to those other contracts, and then we'll be able to release what those look like to the port in our general report. The procurement service lines, just went over that. The geotechnical permit application has been filed in order to begin the assessment. That's one of the critical early long lead items that you have to have done that's outside of probably the engineering reports. That is going to be headed up by Fugro. We have executed that contract, and they are underway in order to determine what the soil conditions are within the right-of-way that we're evaluating. And again, as we talked about over the summer and earlier, we are doing a right-of-way evaluation. That's the last contract that we're getting executed with the engineering team, and they'll be heading that up. Let's see, what else do we have? Moving forward to completion between now and the end of the year, based on any questions that either the board or the public have, I'm obligated to give a report up to SP. Once they've cleared that report with the different milestone documents, it'll then be relayed to the port and the board for probably comment in the January meetings. So the objectives that we have, I've got to roll that up through SP, and then they'll allow me to release it out for any other comments that may have, so we can keep everyone informed as to what's going on. I think that's it, generally speaking. I did receive a couple of questions from Dr. Gui, I think from Mr. Russell, possibly Mr. Kognovich, through some conversation I wanted to go ahead and get out there and address. The first of which was Going back to the estimated cost as it would relate to the project and what that schedule would look like in order to be able to get that budgeted. That is a contract that is between Sustainability Partners and the Port. And I believe the finance director, I know Chumbrell's not here, but she can roll that up. And I believe that she's been working with the comptroller at Sustainability Partners as we go through the use of funds to make sure that that's kept up to date. I understand that there was a concern regarding location with Venture Global as far as the track alignment. That is a continued concern of ours. We want to make sure that's done. We have not engaged Venture Global or any of the stakeholders because we want to allow the engineering group to do that, so that we're talking off of maps and the actual potential alignments and any conditions that may, cause harm or need to be mitigated through the process. And then similarly with the Corps of Engineers, if we were to choose the alignment that would go west and go behind the Venture Global project, how would that relate or interact with both the new levee system as well as the Venture Global protection wall? Again, same answer back would be that the engineering group is going to head that up and make sure that the conversations are very concise and that any concerns that are identified are dealt with very quickly. If you guys have any questions, that is the conclusion of my report now.
Could you speak to the cooperation of the design team, APMT, the cargo, and how it's being designed? Hit the wave tops, because
On the other
we
project?
want to get on the container project.
Okay, yeah, so,
And I had requested that the design team come in January, February,
yes.
and provide a presentation to the board.
Yeah, so that's a separate topic. Do you want me to address questions on the main line first, or you want me to blend them?
Do the main line and then.
Okay. Questions from the board on the main line?
And my board's not working. Am I on?
Go ahead. You are.
Yeah, I did have a few questions. I'm trying to understand. So some of the funds have been released, you mentioned,
Yes, sir.
and Sustainability Partners released those funds. How much did they release and to who?
2 million to LA 23.
2 million?
Yes, sir. Within the 3.25 that was approved. Yes, sir.
Okay, so now the way this will work is LA 23 will now hire Volker and other engineering firms, Geotech and so forth,
Yes, sir.
and you will pay them by invoice,
Yes, sir.
and then the invoices will be shared with the board?
No, sir. No, sir. This is viewed as a lump sum project would be. When you guys engaged in this, it was an estimated $8 million, and then the releases are concurrent based on those tranches. So releasing that information as it sits now, that was not part of the contract negotiations with SB.
Well, I distinctly remember sitting here and having a discussion, we would be seeing the invoices, and we would be approving invoices. I asked the question, well, would we be approving contracts? And your answer to that was, no, we wouldn't approve the contracts. So now you're telling me that we're just going to write a $3 million check or a $3.25 million check or $2 million as we've already supposedly released. And then we're going to be paying X amount of dollars per month. From what I understand from the finance department, could be $42,000 or $70,000 a month, but yet we don't see any of the expenditures. Is that correct?
That is correct, because the owner of the asset is actually Sustainability Partners. They're the ones that are releasing the money. The agreement between the port and Sustainability Partners is for usage of the completed asset. And this allows you guys an exclusivity position as the asset is completed.
Well, I feel kind of misled because I thought sure we were going to be able to see the invoices and see what was being spent. The Volker Engineering, I know Juba Diaz and that crew over there, and I know that they're quality people. That's not the question. The question is that us just writing checks, blank checks to not seeing where the money is going is a problem for me.
So what we do provide in the pay application is the general buckets that they would go into. So for engineering services, mapping, survey, things of that nature. But the individual invoices themselves to the subcontractors with their private rates, no, sir, would not be released. But the actual utilization in the milestone components will be shown to the board. Yes, sir.
And so it goes back to your agreement as the exclusive developer. We've always been told that you make the deals on the other side, and that's where you make your money.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to be writing checks to vendors who are paying you.
No, sir.
Then how are you going to get paid?
I do get paid by Sustainability Partners as the asset developer.
What you're writing checks for is to be able to use the asset. I think part of the confusion here is that it's about who owns the asset. So in the original agreement that I have with the port, right, is to bring in alternative funding sources. And according to the contract, it's to release the names of any funding sources I would bring in. So in this case, we did that with Sustainability Partners. The Port Administration and the board approved a contract between Sustainability Partners and the port in order to be able to bring on an asset under a certain term and condition. My engagement with SP is outside of that and has no direct correlation to the port.
But we pay the bill to SP.
For usage of the asset, not for construction of it.
Mr. Fetters, I mean, we don't even know where the right-of-way is at this point in time. We're paying for use of an asset that doesn't exist?
You will be paying for usage of the asset when it is completed, and that's what we went through when we went all the way through what the process would be. And we had this discussion before. Remember, you had to concern yourself about crossings and things of that nature.
Many. And I would firmly think that myself, my colleagues, the people in this town need to have some say where the railroad is going to be located. And we're just being totally circumvented.
No, sir, you're not.
Well, we don't know where it's going to be, and you haven't come to us yet to show us where it might be, where some options might be.
So when you follow the permit process and you go through it, so the right-of-way alignments and the alternatives will be provided, and those will go to public comment. And then that's when the public can be engaged of what the pros and cons of each one of the potential alignments would be. And so therefore, there would be no circumvention. And in the interim, what our duty is to listen to, like, the comments that you've addressed, right? Very valid comments of safety concern and potential crossings and things of that nature, and incorporate those on as we go into the early design component.
So my background is in outreach and engagement, and I would never build a railroad without going to the community first.
I agree with you.
But that's not happening here. You're just, you're handing it off to the engineers and the designers. Only at the last minute will there be a formality, a public comment period.
No, I think you're grossly overstating it. No, that is a process that has to be obliged. We've just begun the design process. So in that design process, the first thing you do is you identify the polygon that which it may exist. You then go out and you conduct a geotechnical survey to determine soil conditions where you may have pros and cons with it. Then you look at the property ownership and utilization in the area. You produce risk-based calculations on what the different alignments would look like, and then you come out with the top one or two alternatives of what it may be. Those alternatives are then presented for permitting consideration to both the public as well as the operator. And then even before anything can begin construction-wise, and let me be clear, the only agreement that you have as the port right now is to get through the design phase. And you have the ability to intercede and, as per all the contract, work through what the project is and voice your concerns. But this does not automatically just rubber stamp a construction project. There's a lot that has to go into it, and we've just begun.
So to finish up for me, the design is by Volker?
No, sir. They are running the project management and the construction management of it as it would come on later on. The design will be headed up by a team. And the only reason I haven't released it is because we haven't finished the contract execution, which I hope to give you by the end of the year once SP clears me.
And so we're going to do design and all of these steps simultaneously without knowing which right-of-way we're going to be acquiring?
So the way the process works through is that you identify the right-of-way area that may be addressed. You then go through the steps that I just told Mr. Blink about. And then within that, once you start to narrow it down, you do what's a 10% design. So you look at the likelihood of what these different alignments would be through these different tracks. There's an engagement that goes on there. There's a number of steps. Happy to go into them. Then you take that feedback and you proceed to what's called a 30% design. That goes to the permit cycle. It's not until you reach the 60% design that the permit can really be considered to be approved. Once you get past 60, then you have an alignment. You have your general crossings, your safety factors, things of that nature. You then go back through a stakeholder engagement to make sure you haven't missed any concerns by the public, by the board, whatever it is, and then it heads into the final design process. Once that final design is completed, then the permit is completely stamped, the design is approved, and then you go out for construction. That process takes about a year to a year and a half.
Well, I'm not an expert on this, but I can tell you it does seem like we're putting the cart before the horse when we start talking about design without having a right-of-way study done and having agreements with our major landowner, a tenant, and discussions, haven't even approached them yet. Mm-hmm. And I know you say it's okay, but wasn't,
If I can I say this? I don't say it's okay. I said it's part of the process. I'm not wanting to mislead anyone that it's okay. That what I'm saying is that it's part of the process, and we will have to get to the answers and concerns that have been identified by different stakeholders, board members and such. I'm not saying it's okay.
I know, however, my concern is how much do we spend before we get to the process that makes sense to me? And from what I'm hearing, it doesn't really matter because we're not going to see what we're spending the money anyway and how the invoices come in. And that's what really sets me apart on the project, not knowing, especially being in this seat here, and I can look down this table, and I'm not sure how many people remember that, but I do specifically remember saying that we were going to be approving invoices or justification for the appropriations that we make. And so is it accurate to say we're going to be appropriating about $42,000 a month? Is that a number that makes any connection to you?
The only thing that makes, no, I won't opine to that because that calculation again is sustainability partners calculations, Mr. Russell. I don't want to opine to that one way or another. I've seen a number of different numbers, if you will, of what the monthly pay would look like. But again, that's between the finance department at the port and the comptroller at Sustainability Partners. One thing I would offer is to table this part of the discussion until we do our first roll-up report and actually give you the tangible components to take a look at and then sit down and have the discussion and then address it in the public meetings, hopefully in January, and really see if we can't get to maybe that where are we, question that you're asking.
Well, I've already met with staff, and I was given a number from $42,000 to $70,000, a variance between that we would be appropriating monthly. And I was definitely under the impression that the board would know what the money was spent on. But I'm going to let it lay because I know that I'm on the losing end of this vote. I didn't vote for this project. And I have serious concerns about the project, especially now that we're getting into the weeds of it and being told that all you're going to do is write checks. And you're not going to be able to see the invoices, and especially your arrangement, the way your arrangement is with this port, that you're the exclusive developer, and we pay you nothing, and you make your money on the other side. And the other side is the side we write the checks to. And that's the problem that I have of not knowing. And I know you keep saying it's a private matter yet, but you sit up here and represent this board as the exclusive developer, and all of a sudden, everything is cut and dry with private, public. We on the public side writing the checks, you on the private side collecting them. That's the problem that I have.
I understand. And again, what I would offer is let me do the roll-up report and then continue the conversation with you, if that's okay. I think once we get some information in front of you, hopefully, like I said, by the end of the year, then let's sit down and have the deeper discussion and address the additional questions, if that's fair.
It's fair, except for the fact that how much money down the road before we get to know what really is the deal?
Nothing more than you've approved.
And that's $8 million?
No, sir, it's 3.25.
3.2 million? That's still a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. I agree with you, Mr. Russell. And again, that's why we're working to get this approved so that we can get out before the end of the year and any additional things are done.
Now, let me say that I would like my colleagues to chime in on this because I'm the one that brings these issues up. And I'd love to learn more about this because everybody that I've asked, it doesn't make sense to them, the way that it's been explained to them. And especially now that we're getting into the project even further.
And again, I will make the offer I've made before. If at any time there are details that you would like to sit down and learn, in private or in public, as the information becomes available, happy to sit down in whatever form or format we can do and turn through paper.
I'd like to know what the invoices are.
That won't happen. I'll have to confirm.
So why I'm going to sit down with you if I can't see what the money's being spent on? I mean, that makes no sense.
Okay.
Mr. Fetters, can you please commit to Mr. LaFrance that you're going to work as closely with him as possible? The rail line is in the district that he represents, and I'm sure he needs to be involved from the earliest steps.
100%, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, and in fact, I think we had begun the conversations with the Ironton community and with your district, and then between IDA and some other things, it all just there were other priorities, is what I would say, right? But that area, so I will be very clear when it comes to the potential alignments. There are two areas that are really between LA 23 and the river, one being Ironton and then the other small community of houses right across from Myrtle Grove that are really kind of the focal point of where residential homes and the railroad would have to, those things have got to be sorted out. Ironton, obviously, has a huge priority because it comes from the terminus, and it's really the first leg. So, yes, sir, my commitment is to you, to engage you, your community, and make sure that early on, as we get the first maps and drawings that are published, just sit down through your office and work with the local community. So, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I mean, I have concerns about
And I've talked
rail over.
in private about some of them, and I'll continue to call him when I have questions.
And again, you're all welcome to call me. I mean, I'll answer anything that I can answer. To Mr. Rousseau's point, I very much respect what you're asking for, but I have the limits that I have when it comes to the client that I have.
I was particularly concerned about rail crossings over LA 23, and it seems that there would be at least 2, possibly 3, once Walker Road is online, and there's nothing solid there for rail bridges, correct?
Well, so first of all, I would ask that we separate Peters Road, that project at Walker Road right now from this mainline project. That's the first request. But I will tell you that the comment that you had early on, that we did bring it to light, that are we best served by creating a crossing? Do we need to do a flyover? How can we keep the road and the rail completely separate to the maximum extent possible? Those comments have actually been built in to the objectives of the design team, so that there's not just this, it's only a crossing, don't worry about it, right? That attitude doesn't need to exist in the project. So your comments have already been heard, and as soon as we can share them with you in a design drawing or a preliminary drawing, I'm happy to do that. So you were not discarded. Please don't think that. It was a great comment, and we did incorporate it.
Got it. I'm just, I'm getting texts from constituents as I'm sitting here. They're concerned about the process, and
Sure.
I could tell you from the little bit of that I've had access to it, I don't feel that my voice is being heard very much.
Sure, I can appreciate that. And one thing I would say is that I think that we were putting together our plan pre-hurricane, and then the world just kind of got spun, and we've got to reorganize ourselves and get out to the communities of Ironton and everything that's down that way, and then below too, right? It's not just about where the rail's going to go, but below where the rail may have impact, and continue that process.
So are we going to move to the next part of this discussion on the, wait 1 second, Mr. Valley. Are we going to move to the next section of this discussion that you had recommended, Sandy, on the site, on the facility itself?
Container terminal?
Container terminal? Yes, sir. Because, Mr. Valley, you're going to be premature on this, because then you're going to want to come back up and ask more questions if you let Mr. Fett.
I was going to only relate, Mr. Chairman, to what he's already stated already. And just to refresh yourself, Mr. Rousseau, I distinctly recall you at several meetings insisting and directing the staff and his attorney to make certain that his agreement and all the agreements, sub-agreements in there, follow the languages that you have now that govern what they can and can't do and what your approvals were. And specifically about getting these monies approved, and you saw where it went. They were instructed to do that. He refused at that time, and you still were very steadfast and said you want it in there. Whatever restrictions you all have on this port and what it can and can't do, and approvals still have to come back to you. And you instructed them to put it in their contract. That's just my comments. And you did.
Thank you, Mr. Valley.
All right, so switching topics, if I can. So as Sandy has requested, high level of where the terminal project is, I do believe most people have seen the announcement with AP Moeller Terminals and what their continued interest is in the project and pursuit of an operating agreement with it. We have been hosting, as a part of that development, and I say we in a greater sense, a monthly stakeholder, from a design side stakeholder, not a public yet, AP Moeller, some design engineers, and some subject matter experts on the terminal, and really trying to work what the terminal needs to be based on some customer requests and some contracts that have come forward for operation of the terminal, both from a here and now and then what a scheduled drive is. I can tell you that AP Moeller is very involved in this project. I was on a call this morning that had no less than 6 of their folks from The Hague on it, all design engineers and operations and systems managers. So there is work that is being done now to support AP Moeller in that aspect. Yes, we are involved and really kind of heading that up with the port to drive that process forward. I would offer in January, we are set to have another, one of our group meetings There are 2 lead design engineers that have engaged in the project. And I think to Sandy's request, we're going to have them come in, if the board allows, and do a presentation on where we are with the terminal, where we are with the schedule, and where we are with the permits. And to Mr. Blink's point, how does the local groups and the people in Plaquemines engage and when? And what does that process look like? So to kind of head off some of your concerns with, the next set of projects, taking these lessons learned and driving them forward. Is there anything else you wanted me to speak to? Okay.
And so, Mr. Fetters, just to be clear, in the LOI, AP Moeller is, you said they're very involved, very interested.
Yes, sir.
But they made it very, very clear that they're not paying anything.
At this time, yes, sir.
So, I mean, I'm in the boat business, I'm in marine transportation. This is the equivalent of, I want a boat, but I don't want to pay for it. I for the life of me, I can't figure out why these folks claim to be so serious, but don't want to have any financial skin in the game.
I hate to go back to it because I know it is not the answer that gives you the solace you need, but they have a process. And because of the size of their company and the procedures that they have to go through, we are following their procedure as far as timing goes. We have an objective because of a customer that has come forward to meet an operational deadline that AP Moeller at this time from a financial standpoint can't commit today, but we are working through a process of what their overall engagement looks like, starting with an operator and then heading more into what that investment quality looks like. They did us a huge favor in coming out with their name on the project. When we were dealing with this over a year ago, that was one of the comments that was made by both the public and the port. Well, I hear about the container terminal, but who is it, right? It's a small victory, ladies and gentlemen, but it is a victory that they have put their name on it. It's a huge component for what the quality of this project is. So there's a lot being done on that, and there's a lot of contracts that are underway, and I hope you can appreciate the sensitivity around the contracts. And I would offer, I think Sandy and Paul, even as he exits, would offer to bring Brian Harold back, who's the managing director out of Mobile and our chief point of contact for APM, and have him answer your questions directly, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Benny, go ahead.
Has the property been purchased and closed on yet?
No, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do we have a date on when it might be purchased?
Not that I can disclose, sir. No, sir.
So we're building a railroad to a property that we don't own for a container terminal operator that doesn't want to pay any money to have it built.
You can put that point of view on it at this moment in time, yes, sir, Mr. Blaine. But that is a much larger puzzle that is being put together, and the lead times that are associated with the different projects have to coalesce. And we have the opportunity to bring the mainline rail to the industrial campus, right, which already does have perspective and use and is a part of the port's master plan for connectivity.
Got it. Risk scares me, and I feel like this is highly risky.
Again, I will make the offer to you to be able to discuss what I can't in public with you as the chair in a private meeting if we can answer some more of those questions, or more importantly, possibly put you in direct connection with some folks that I don't have authority to release their information and give them the opportunity to release their own, if that's fair enough to you.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, sir.
Finding out
I'll
much,
work
much
through
more.
the board and we'll get that arranged, okay, or to the port.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Fetters from the board? Some of the folks supportive of this from the beginning? No? Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Chris. Our next presenter,
You want me to stay here? You want me to go to the- Okay,
Hey, looking at this from in the audience, the board, it's one of those petri deals, like I always say. The public is getting the shaft here. And it's sad to see this, man. It's sad to see this. But the public is looking at you guys. So that's all I got to say. But here's another deal with the petri deal. We had it with the bridge. We know we got with the bridge. Now we're with the railroad. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. by Mr. Vorshak.
Well, I guess all the things that have been said about this project, train to nowhere, so on and so forth, is truly a fact of the matter. Not only this contract that was drawn up from day one did not have anything in it, and I'm not sure whether anyone on this board has seen these words in the contract where it actually pointed to a railroad. I believe that this contract was asked to have that placed in it, but not sure that ever happened. Then there was a statement made by Mr. Fetters that he was coming before this board every month, once a month, in this chambers, not the Bell Chase chambers. It was supposed to be in this chambers, and it was supposed to come with an update every month. Since that date, since he talked about this contract, he has not been back here. There has been zero updates to the public, none. This is public money. The public is paying for something that we have to turn around and pay to use. We are paying for something that we have to turn around and pay to use. This is ludicrous. How this thing passed with the individuals that voted for this, I cannot even fathom how. And I hope, and I think that I even stated back then, that I hope that those that voted for this project, if you're not term limited out, I hope you get replaced by someone else that is thinking more of the public and fighting for the citizens of this parish and not blowing our money such as on projects such as this. This is crazy. It's another ploy to tell you what you are going to do and not what you should do. So
Thank you, Mr. Vorshak.
please do not support this. Take the money, remove the contract, and let's get out of this thing and get headed in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, moving on, please.
Would you, okay.
The last thing we have in new business to allow them to present and to leave is an insurance presentation update by Mr. Verdon, and I believe his representative is here. Addie Liebel. Thank you for coming today.
Hi, good afternoon. Addie Liebel with McGriff Insurance Services. Mr. Verdon had a prior commitment, not realizing when we agreed on Monday afternoon to be here today, that it was going to be in the afternoon. So his apologies for not being here. When we left on Monday afternoon, the question was, or it was said that that was our worst case scenario, is what was put into the budget for the presentation on the insurance in the aspect of the port and adding the ferries to it. Mr. Verdon agreed that we would be back today and present final numbers. I'm going to tell you, I don't have final numbers. I have improved numbers compared to where we were on Monday to where we are now is an additional savings of $68,000. We feel we can still improve on that number further. The problem we ran into is we've asked for additional information from Plaquemines government as respects the ferries. There's processes and procedures that need to be followed when dealing with the underwriters. And until the ferries are officially part of the port, they're not willing to release that information to us. It's a technicality, but that's just how they are as respects. Because some of the underwriters are already on the port program, and they are on the ferries as well, on that separate program right now. And so they can't have it dual. They know that the coverage is already over there. So as soon as, I kind of briefly spoke to Mr. Roussel about it as well, our intent is, once we are approved that the ferries are officially part of Port, Harbor, and Terminal. They will be able to give us more information, and we can use that program and combine the towers. We had talked about combining the towers of the excess into one program to save funds. Once we have that, that's where some additional savings are going to come from. In order to do that, again, it's the same underwriters, and until we're officially appointed, Port Harbor has the ferries, we can't do that. So again, our numbers right now, which Christie is reflected into the budget, are the additional savings of the $68,000. And should an addendum need to be made, we anticipate having it all complete once it is official, which, if I'm not mistaken, would be today.
Hopefully so.
Or assuming it gets approved today, that we would be back within a week, have the official presentation put together to present to the board, to Port Harbor, and you can share it. It will be shared with everyone at that point. It can be emailed, however need be, I mean, between you guys. I don't know if you have any questions on that. I do have more points. I'm sorry. I need to look at my notes. Mr. LaFrance, you mentioned an additional deductible option of $500,000 for the ferries. We spoke to several underwriters to that aspect. I think the consensus was that we wanted to get the deductibles down and not necessarily up. So I'm not sure what the confusion, or maybe we misunderstood the request. We have asked for additional options on bringing the deductibles from $250,000 on the ferries. So right now, the ferries have $250,000 on the hull if there was an incident, $250,000 deductible on the P&I, and there's also a $250,000 deductible for the marine general liability. So if you had an incident that, God forbid, something would happen, the ferries would have an incident, hit something, and you had damage to the actual ferry, you're responsible for everything up to $250,000. If anyone is injured, be it a crew or a third party, you're responsible for the first $250,000. So when you add that together, you're looking at $500,000 as a deductible on one incident. So we are attempting to get those numbers down. When you drop a deductible, the premium normally goes up. We have taken that into consideration in these figures that we are presented to the Port Harbor at this point in time, with the anticipation that when we combine the excess towers, we're going to have the savings and be able to lower the deductibles. Questions?
Benny, go ahead.
No, I want to thank y'all for your work. I know that y'all are working under a short schedule, but I think you've done a good job of trying to put something together, and I'm hoping that our conversation with the president earlier today
Yes, sir.
will free up that information, and after this body acts today, that we'll be able to move forward and get that information out of our finance department and move it to that next step. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy, thank you again for your time.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the presentations.
Thank you, Sandy.
Item 3A, financial report.
Excuse me,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. LaFrance, I didn't see you in the queue.
do we have any report on the methanol plant? Is there been any action? IGP.
No, IGP, I met with them this week. They are going full steam ahead. Also met with them again the next morning up in Baton Rouge. They were getting ready to go into DNR. They are looking at a possible expansion project as well. So that gives me great sense of encouragement that they're moving forward.
Thank you.
I will talk to Raman and see if he can come give a presentation in the first part of the year.
Please do.
I will.
Thank you.
All right, 3A.
Item 3A, financial report, budget to actual.
We have none.
None. Item 4, bids and advertisements. There are none. Item 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. I have a few. The first is for Commissioner Blink, an ordinance to amend the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District 2022 revenue and operating expenditure budget and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The next few are for Commissioner Bartholomew, An ordinance establishing ferry toll rates and providing for discounts and exemptions therefrom, establishing ferry hours of operation, adopting policies and procedures for ferry operations, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The next is for Commissioner Newberry. An ordinance authorizing and directing the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District Executive Director Menard J. Sandy Sanders to negotiate and enter into a short-term lease agreement and a separate option for a long-term lease agreement with Plaquemines Land Ventures LLC of approximately 523 acres of that certain port property described in Globo Exhibit A upon terms and conditions approved by the Plaquemines Parish Council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And the last one is for Commissioner Newberry as well. A resolution authorizing the Executive Director, Menard Sandy Sanders, to enter into an agreement with Mercury Public Affairs to provide consulting, advisory, and lobbying services regarding port representation at the federal and regional level for a one-year term, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Next, item 6A, there are none. 6B, a resolution electing the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District Chairperson for 2022, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Newberry.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to move with this motion and ask for a second.
Second.
I have a statement to make on this legislation. I've supported the port in moving forward for the past 3 years. I've been vice chair for the past 2 years, educating myself with the ongoing projects of this port. I've put in many hours with the port staff to prepare myself for the position of chair. I've been attending weekly meetings with the port staff to facilitate our agendas for the open meeting with our current chair, only who shows up from time to time. I've been the butt of many jokes, and I don't appreciate being underestimated and not capable of making tough decisions. I was elected by the people to govern, not micromanage. We were all elected with the hopes that we all can come together to bring this parish back to a good life and better than it has ever been. I had the support for this legislation, but due to Mr. Arbrough inadvertently pushing the wrong button and not being afforded the opportunity to change his vote, and now we're here at this point with all non-members present. I would hope that I still have the support for this legislation to move forward with the respect that I deserve. I yield.
Go ahead, Mr. Arborough.
Yes, I would like to make a statement on that as well. As many of y'all know, that the yes vote was never my intention. As we're all aware, we've had several issues with these computers since I've been on the council. And there's been several times that my fellow colleagues and myself have been allowed to do a verbal change. I felt I should have been given that right that day. Others didn't. But regardless of that, I feel my fellow council members, knowing that the yes vote was never my intention, when the vote for reconsideration was asked and to be denied that is very disheartening that I wasn't allowed that opportunity. Thank you.
Well, Mrs. Newberry, since you brought my name up, I'll be forced to respond. I think you're implying that I don't attend Monday meetings at a rate that you think is necessary or needed?
Mr. Blank, I've been there, I think, for every meeting except one because of illness. And I just feel like I deserve that position as chair. I'm just implying that.
It just muddied the waters a bit and brought me into something that maybe didn't need to. I take a lot of meetings over the phone, by Zoom, etc. All right, there you go. Commissioner Black.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, unfortunately, I was in surgery the day or that week of that council meeting, of that board meeting in which that vote was cast. I did watch it, and I agree with Mr. Albro. I think Mr. Garrett's advice was an error. I mean, it was obvious, and I know you had stated to me when I spoke to you that it was a technical issue, which isn't a reconsideration for a vote. It's a technical issue, which he's not reconsidering it. His vote, his intent was the other option. So I think you erred in that. And I'm not sure if you want to opine, but before you do, if you decide to, Danny, I do want to say this on behalf of Trudy. I've watched, and I was the port chairman for a couple of years back when, in last term, and I know the time that it takes and the attention you have to pay to it to be able to do it correctly. I've watched you as the vice chair put that time in. I've watched you put the attention that the port needs to it, and you've done it with a remarkably positive attitude. You have taken some shots. I mean, a lot of people who are pro-port seem to take shots. I talked about that with Paul before. And you've taken shots. However, you haven't just allowed the administration to go without challenge. I've watched you challenge the administration. I've watched you challenge me on issues. And, you and I talk a lot about issues at the port. And I have learned a lot from you over the past year as vice chair. That I didn't know. So I appreciate that. As the vice chair, I think I think that it is your turn to be chair. And I think you will lead this port board and give guidance and oversight to the administration in a highly professional manner with a lot of knowledge and time. So I will be supporting you for chair. I think you deserve it, and I think you would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Bo.
All right, are there any other questions? Audience?
Mr. Chairman,
Please be respectful, Mr. Valley.
Donald Valley. Say again?
Please be respectful in your comments.
I thought we had elected a chairman, irrespective of how it was done or whatever, but pretty much everybody in the community understands that. To sit here today and quibble about it, you're a committee of 9. Y'all voted a unibody as to who's the chair, who's the second in command. You really, way you do business and how you put things on your agenda and how things are operating, what authority you have and control, really is irrelevant. You really don't. You operate as a whole. You have to have 5 votes. And what gets on there, you're allowed to put anything on the agenda you want to put on the agenda. And for the most part, you put just about everything on the agenda, and even the small details. I'm always reluctant to talk about anybody or speak about things in a personal nature, but I got to say, I've been disappointed. I realize that as elected officials, you can't be everything to everybody, and you can't have all the knowledge that should be have there. But you got to have a working knowledge if you're going to assume certain responsibilities. And what I've seen from a lot of you all, only a small group of you, delve deeply to take the time and the effort to understand what's going on. Probably, Mr. Russell, probably because of his experiences in the past and his time that he puts into things, does a due diligent job of knowing what's going on in this parish, probably better than anybody else. And that's not belittling anybody else. Trudy, in all fairness to you, I know you try your best, but you don't even know what a refinery is to an oil terminal. I mean, my God, some of the stuff that we go on, if you're going to go out there and represent the parish and a port and the industry about people doing business with it, you got to know what goes on up and down that river. You got to know what the laws are. You got to be in business with stuff like that. I would hope that you all would leave Mr. Russell in his position, Let's move forward, put Mr. Carlton LaFrance in, like you all have talked about before. Let's hire an internal lawyer, quit quibbling about who's going to get the approve him. You all are going to approve him, just like you approved Mr. Matthews when you hired him in here. So it's not a big deal. The image that you all are putting forth to the public is so disappointing. I mean, y'all get tired of me asking questions or making statements, but nobody else. Rob comes up here, I come up here, Mr. Henry come up here. Y'all got to pay attention to what the hell's going on out there. I talked to most of y'all that are willing to talk about it. Spend time with it. These people in this audience and the public in this parish deserve better. Nobody wants to change you all. Just ask you to do a better job. Quit quibbling amongst yourselves. Mr. Russell, I gave you a sign when you were parish president. It's a street sign. I gave it to a few people I had in business with government employees. It's a street sign. It says, you know, typical one-way street sign. The one I gave you is a magnetic sign. It says, my way. You treasure that. And that's your form of how you manage, which is fine. You run it your way, but you spend time and you're fair to people out there. You're very knowledgeable and equitable to all the people in this town. And I can tell you, without you being in here before, this thing would ramshot. What they're doing down here and what you all have oversight and asked to be put in place, go ignore it. Y'all got to wake up. Y'all got to put a little thumb on these people and what you're doing here.
Thank you, Mr. Fortune.
I'm finished.
Mr. Valley, thank you. Hi, Mr. Henry, how are you?
Yo, fine. Listen, Ms. Newberry, I told you all privately one time, you should have been the port chair. I told you that. But I gotta be honest, and I've been around there for years. Mr. Roussel is a guy that really knows what he's doing. We have staff that time, but I got to give a person credit where credit is due. Mr. Roussel really could put this port and turn it the way it should go. It should go for the people. It should go for the people, baby, not the businesses. It should go where the people get money off of this deal. Business is gonna get money, but the people should get money for this deal. And I wanna see this deal run for the people. It's in a charter. It should be done for the people.
Are there any other questions from the audience?
Mr. Blank?
Yes, Mr. LaFrance, go ahead.
Mr. Gary, parliamentary procedure. Explain this legislation to us. If this passes, what we have, two chairmen? Explain this.
Well, no, the more recently adopted provision would prevail.
Okay.
Elton Frederick, 108 Victor's Road, Belchash. Nothing against Ms. Newberry or anybody else up here, you know, not doubting your qualifications or anything like that, but I thought, you know, this was a done thing. You know, election was held, and I can't believe it was a technical error that happened. You know, he made a mistake, and, you know, I mean, Mr. Albro maybe mistakenly did what he did, but it's over, and it's a done deal as far as I'm concerned. We shouldn't be going over this again, you know. Like I said, it wasn't technical. It was his mistake, and that's it.
And Mr. Forche. Thank you, Mr. Frederick.
Danny opine on that, because I talked to Mr. Albro, and he can speak for himself, obviously, but he said it in his statement. Opine on the difference between a technical issue and a reconsideration vote. Explain to me, please, because I want to know why did you say it had to go to a reconsideration?
When voting is taking place, someone can change their vote as many times as they want until such time as the vote the final vote is announced by the chair. Once the final vote is announced by the chair, that is the vote. And a member can only change their vote with the consent of the body, and the parliamentary procedure to do that is a motion to reconsider. Now,
Even on a technical issue.
if
Because a reconsideration, by definition, is I'm reconsidering my vote. If my intent was no, and the technical issue shows yes, then it's not a reconsideration.
once the chair announces the result of the vote, votes cannot be changed without the consent of the body. The procedural vehicle to change by the consent of the body is a motion to reconsider unless they have an alternative rule. And I'll give you an example. The Louisiana legislature has adopted a rule that allows members to cast their vote, and then the total is announced, yeas and nays. So a declaration of how a vote went is done. They have a rule, and it still requires body members, and it happens dozens of times a session. Members will go, they will get the floor. They will request the body to allow them to change their vote from yea to nay, or from yea to nay, or from absent to yea, or from absent to nay. And ordinarily, and those are done generally without objection, and he hits his gavel. Now, their rule, however, says that they cannot do that if it will change the outcome of the vote. So in other words, a lot of times you'll have a situation, somebody was out of the chamber, some very popular piece of legislation passes 98-0. Somebody wants to be on record as having voted for it, so they'll come up and say, I'd like my vote changed from absent to yea, because they want to have record they're on it. But if a vote is, and it takes 53 votes in the House to pass a law. If the vote is, 52 yeas, or 54 yeas and 50 nays, a person who, once that is announced, one of the people who voted yes, they're on the prevailing side. They cannot come and say, oh, just change my vote back. I want to change it to make it 52 to 50, which means it wouldn't pass because they needed the 53. They would actually have to make a motion to reconsider. That motion to reconsider would have to pass the body by a majority vote and then what that does, it puts the vote back before the body.
You still haven't addressed the technical issue. All you're addressing is the intent.
It
arguing the
doesn't,
intent.
and it doesn't matter whether it was a technical issue or not, once the chair has announced the outcome. So, for example, if a member inadvertently pressed yes instead of no, before the chair announced the result, they could have said, oh, wait, I accidentally pressed the wrong button. I would like my vote recorded as such. That would have been in order. But if the inadvertent vote is not discovered until after the vote has been announced by the chair, the only way to resolve it is with the consent of the body as a parliamentary matter.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Mr. Forshaw?
I specifically remember this night. Was sitting here in the audience. With all due respect, Mr. Corey Arbrough did not state that it was a technical issue. He stated that he accidentally pushed the wrong button. So as far as a technical problem or a problem with the machine or a whatever is being made up now and being lied and said, okay, then keep it what it is. Sadly, this parish has witnessed many, many times where the truth has been flawed, projected, not in a truthful manner. Now, with respect to Ms. Newberry,
Trudy, look, you're right. You were elected by your district to represent your district. And then whenever you come to this council and this chamber and this commission, then you should be representing the majority of this parish. All right, and voting, number one, for your district, number two, for the citizens of the entire parish. You are in your first term. If in fact, you obviously feel that you have done your job and done your job to a satisfactory manner, then you will be reelected, right? You'll be reelected next term, next election. And if you win the opinion of your fellow council members or commissioners, then maybe then they may see that you have deserved and do deserve a chairmanship. But I like your statement earlier where you did not even know the difference between a storage facility, an oil storage facility.
That's not true.
Well, that's what you said, that, because, yes, you stated that
Mr.
Alliance
Forsham.
Refinery was a storage facility. It is not a storage facility. It is a refinery. They import oil and put oil in their tanks
I
to
under-
refine.
I understand
Point of
that.
order.
Refine.
Mr. Forsham, please.
Excuse me, I'm speaking, so I'm going to be interrupted?
Not on the issue.
It is on the issue.
What are you trying to get at? Like, we hear what you're saying, but we have a lot to do
So
here.
you hear what we're saying, you hear what I'm saying, but you don't want to hear it. All right, so.
I just don't want you to speak to my
The bottom line here is,
Mr. Forsham, I'm talking. I appreciate you letting me have the floor.
I tried to.
I just don't appreciate the tone that you're giving to our colleagues. It just comes off a little abrasive, and, it's a contentious vote as it is. You've already made your point. You're saying the same thing Mr. Valley just said. We've got a lot to do.
Thank you, Rich.
Can I call the question, please?
That's not surprising, Rich. Not surprising.
Machines are open for voting. Roussel. All right, Roussel's machine's not working. It looks like everybody's queued in.
Not technical, is it?
No, it's not, Mr. Durr. It's not technical, so I'm gonna vote verbally.
Very good.
Good, so,
I want a clarification.
I'm glad you're here to do that.
All the votes are cast. All right, there is an abstention. Mr. Bartholomew, it looks like it fails. All right, moving on, please.
Item 6C, a resolution electing the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District Vice Chairperson for 2022, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Newberry.
Yes, I'd like to move this motion. Next for a second.
What's the name in it?
I'd like to just offer it as read.
Yeah, but I don't have it up on the
sorry.
computer. Who you offering as?
This is for Dr. Stuart Gooey.
All right, a second.
I'd like to offer the following amendment to put Mr. Carlton LaFrance in as vice chairman. Ask for a second on the amendment.
An amendment is offered by Roussel,
Second.
seconded by Kognovich.
We call a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Valley.
Dr. Gilly, I have all respect in the world for you and known you for a long time. But I also have understood that this was offered to you some time ago, and you said you really didn't want to do it. You had enough of it, and you wanted to retire, and you have retired. Carlton's been actively involved in this down here, and I'm a little surprised, but maybe I'm hearing wrong, Dr. Gilly. That's just what I've heard. Okay? I'm going to move on.
We're all used to the saying, You're going to do something to me or you're going to do something with me. And the port complex is in Mr. LaFrance's district, and he's been totally cut out of the loop repeatedly. Finds out things at the last minute, meetings going on, and I think it's only right that he serves as the vice chair and gets a front row seat to what is happening at the port. Yield.
Call the question, and my vote is verbally yes for Mr. Durr's benefit.
Heard you loud and clear, sir. Thank you.
It's 4-4.
Oh, it's 5.
Oh, 5-4, and it passes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I want to thank my colleagues for their confidence and their votes. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, and I'd like to make a comment. I'm used to controversy, and I'm sitting here watching it as it's done. And my colleagues, I assure you that I'm going to participate as the chairman and do the best that I can do for the people of Plaquemines Parish, regardless of the politics that's played here or your individual efforts to undermine me. But I have done so my entire career, and I will continue to do so for the next year. Sandy, I look forward to working with you. Paul, congratulations on your exit. Wish you well. And I will see you Monday, the 1st of January. Sandy. I will see you at the first Monday meeting in January.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Moving along the agenda, please.
We still need to vote.
Oh, as amended. Machines are open. Or will be.
Yes.
Councilmember.
We have two of these on our items, right?
Two with.
Legal,
No, we're on,
Voting on the amendment for vice chairman with Councilmember LaFrance's name in it.
I voted to amend it.
voted for the amendment.
You voted
we
for
will.
it. Now we're voting
All
on
right.
the resolution.
The motion passes.
Item 6D, an ordinance to create the legal department and the position of executive counsel of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to amend the 2021 general fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget to provide for the legal department and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Roussel.
Yes, earlier I had a discussion with Ms. Newberry. I will withdraw this as long as she withdraws hers, so at this time I'm going to defer it until I see what she's going to do.
Okay, moving on to 6E, please.
6E, an ordinance to amend and as amended readopt ordinance number 07-102 adopted May 10, 2007 to establish and initiate the collection of Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor and Terminal District security fees and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blank.
I'd like to offer it as read.
Second.
Seconded by Cognovich. Are there any questions from my colleagues or the audience?
I have one question. I looked at the fees, and it said X amount of dollars per box. Is that included in this? This is not the tariff?
Yes, this is regarding the tariff.
So it's $4.60 per container.
Yes, and
Is it a container or a box?
container.
Okay.
And my question is, it just has a generic word container. Is it a 40 container, a 20-foot, 40 or 60, or different prices for that? Or is it just one price per container? Because that's what the legislation reads.
But a 20-foot container, 20-foot TEU is the way they calculate it. So if you have a 40-foot one, it's considered 2 TEUs.
I understand that, but the legislation only says container. It doesn't break it down into 2 TEUs.
We can make sure that it's very clear that it's a TEU. That's why I was asking you boxes or containers. That's why I asked you that question.
Right, and that's why I was asking the question.
Right, exactly.
Because it says
Yeah, we could
container.
clarify that in the tariff so that it's very clear.
So,
Not a problem.
are we going to vote on something to make it clear here at the table?
Well, we would just simply put that in the notes, that is the standard practice internationally in containers of standard TEU. This is the way we've done this. Excuse me. Are you?
Go ahead.
Okay. So this tariff's been around since 1993, hadn't been updated since 2017, and what we've done over the last 5 years is consistently updated this item. So what we can do in the notes is state and define it as a TEU. And if we need legislation for that, we can do that moving forward.
So we've had containers in our tariff since 1993?
Well, evidently it has, but the point is your question about containers and whether that's just a standard TEU or does that include FEUs, we can make in the notes as defined as such.
I thought that we were just adding containers to our tariff.
No, containers have always been in the tariffs. They've consistently been in the tariffs, sir.
And so we don't have any notes in there now, though, to tell me.
No, containers, the term containers and having a charge for containers has always been in there, sir.
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm trying, for instance, if I'm sitting in Florida and I'm looking at Plaquemines Parish tariff and it says container, that individual shipping a 40-foot container or a 20-foot container, will he know unless we put it in the notes, or can we amend the tariff to say per 20-foot container or 40-foot container?
Membership and all that.
Yeah, that's why I just stated, sir.
Never
So
mind
that's
that.
why I want to make sure legally how we amend it. I don't want to amend something today for your review that would be inappropriate. So let's go back and review it legally, how we make sure it's in there. But the standard has been to have it as containers. This is the standard for all the ports on the Gulf Coast. And the surcharges that you've seen today are based on the conversations with those individuals. And this tariff has been here since 1993, and you've been here since that time. So, this is a simple issue that we can clarify for you moving forward.
Mr. Kognovich?
That's what I was gonna ask. You got a membership page on the back, so it's a regional set price.
Yeah, it's a recommendation by the Gulf Ports Association of America, GPAA. So the ports from Brownsville, Texas to Tampa, Florida come together. That executive committee makes a recommendation to the ports. The ports can either decide to use that change in rate or not.
Thank you.
Individual ports make the decision.
Are there any other questions on this item? All right, machine's open for voting.
Yes. Verbal, yes.
New security fees have been adopted 9-0.
Item 6F, a resolution authorizing Menard J. Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, to extend the current agreement for professional services by Dwyer, Cambry, and Suffern for the provision of legal counsel and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blink.
I'd like to offer as read.
Second.
Second by Kognovich. Are there any questions on this item? We've been discussing creating an in-house legal department. Are there anybody would like to talk about this?
I'd like to discuss that we put in an amendment. This is, right, we will be putting an amendment to fund this fully for the year. And then if we decide to have an in-house counsel sometime during the year, then we'll just amend the budget. But it was for, ma'am,
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
And
so it's going to be an amendment coming.
this group of attorneys, I'd imagine they have some sort of buyout clause or something, right?
There's no buyout clause, sir.
Nothing like that?
No, this is
Okay.
standard. This is our standard agreement with Dwyer Cambry that all of you have approved the last few years since you've been in office.
All right. Offer is read. Would anybody like to make an amendment?
Verbal, no.
So no amendment, so we're going to vote, right?
Correct.
We make a budget.
Motion passes.
Item 6G, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of proposal for providing grant and program management services for the Plaquemines Port, Herbert, and Terminal District, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blank, and this is a fill in the blank. So on item line 9, the fill in the blank is Rostan Solutions LLC, and the blank on line 16 is Rostan Solutions LLC.
I'm going to ask somebody else to carry this legislation.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll carry it.
Okay, all right, Mrs. Newberry is going to be, this legislation is going to be under her name.
Do you have family ties with Roslyn Solutions?
I do not, no.
We need a second.
Offered by Newberry, seconded by Gui, and machines are open.
Verbal, yes.
Oh, oh, oh.
This is for the theme.
All right, motion passes. All right, item 6J, adopt the budget.
6H,
Yes, I'm sorry.
an ordinance authorizing and directing Port Executive Director Menard J. Sanders to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Plaquemines Parish Port, Harbor, and Terminal District and Plaquemines Parish government for the transfer of certain rights, obligations, liabilities, and assets related to ferry services, establishing a ferry department in the Plaquemines Parish Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, accepting the transfer of employees from the Plaquemines Parish Government Ferry Department, all in accordance with civil service rules, maintaining existing ferry schedules and rates, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Bartholomew.
Offer.
Offered by Bartholomew, I'll second.
Now, Ms. Newberry, is this the latest version from Mr. Beers?
Yes, Mr. Beers gave me this.
Mr. Sanders, y'all in agreement with the legislation? Okay. With that, Mr. Chairman, I open up for any questions. Anybody have any questions?
I might want to take a recess to review this. It's
All right.
a lengthy document that was just dropped
All
on
right.
our desk. We'll take 5. Okay. All right. We're coming back from recess at 5:12 PM. All right, so we're on agenda item H, and this is transferring the ferry service from Plaquemines Parish Government over to the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District. We just got some updated legislation. We wanted to look over it. It seems like everything's been worked out. We've consulted with the parish attorney on this. And there's no issues from the staff either, correct?
What's that?
There's no issue from the staff on the ferry legislation?
Say that again, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, sure. We're transferring the ferries over.
Right.
We just have this updated document. We went over it. There's no issues from the board staff?
Ready.
Okay. All right. The machines will be open?
Mr. Black.
Oh, yeah. My interface isn't on.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't see it queued up, but go ahead, Mr. Black.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I'm supportive of it. The only question I have is in the preamble, and I'm not sure if it's going to make a difference because I don't see it in the, I didn't see it in the amended sections. It says, I don't know the line number. This is the last line, maintaining existing ferry schedules and rates. Does that give any flexibility, maintaining existing schedules, if you don't have personnel to actually run it?
We talked about that also with Mr. Bartholomew. Our goal is to go in 100%, okay, but we're going to obviously have to work up to that. So, and that also includes and infers that we have to get the personnel to do that.
Right, so I made this point at the budget hearing, because when people see this legislation, when just the average Joe in town sees this, because this is what they see, see this only on TV, that it maintains existing ferry schedules, that's their assumption, is that that's gonna be the schedule. It's back to 12 hours a day and it's twice, whatever. Just wanna be clear that you're gonna try to work up to that, which I agree to, but just I want people to understand that what the reality is. That's all.
Bartholomew?
Yes, the word existing means what's going on at this present. This is what's going on. So whatever that schedule is, that's what we're gonna have to follow until the board get the personnel in place and posture to do when we come back with a resolution, the ordinance to dictate the time of the schedule of the ferries. But it always be predicated on the personnel when that other change occurs.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bartholomew. Any other questions or comments? I second. It was offered by Bartholomew and I second.
Question call. Anybody have any comments?
Mr. Bartholomew calls a question. Machines are open.
Verbal, yes.
Good job, Brandon.
Blank.
I can't, my machine's not on.
So you're not voting verbally?
Yes,
Anytime I can do that, I can do it today.
and the measure passes. 2 verbal yeses, Roussel and Blink.
Item 6I, an ordinance to create the legal department and the position of Executive Counsel of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District to amend the 2021 General Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget to provide for the legal department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Newberry.
Offer as read.
Are there any seconds?
Second?
All right, seconded by Bartholomew. Any questions from the board? Creating, establishing a legal department within.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was on a budget. My bad. Wrong legislation. I was looking at the wrong one. Sorry, Mr. I'm gonna change my offer as read, and I'm gonna withdraw it. I'm on the wrong line item. Apologize for that.
It's all good.
Mr. Chairman, would you revert back to item D so I could withdraw that item as well?
Okay, we're going back to 6D, and it's withdrawn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, as a result of both items being withdrawn, the port will provide an amendment to our current legal budget at the January meeting so that we can be in the posture of having our outside counsel with the standard budget that we've had since we're not at this time moving to inside counsel. And when we do move to inside counsel, we'll adjust accordingly and amend that. So I just want to make you aware of when that introduction comes in January.
Thank you very much.
Item 6J, an ordinance adopting the original operating budget of revenues and expenditures for the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blank.
I'd like to offer as read. Second. All right, seconded by Roussel. Are there any questions from board, audience, staff? Approval of the budget. Okay. Machines are open.
Verbal, yes.
Get a verbal yes out of me as well. Machine is broken. And it passes with all in favor.
Item 6K, an ordinance adopting the original capital improvements budget for the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District for the 5-year period beginning January 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2026, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blank.
I'd like to offer as read.
Second.
Second by Roussel. Any questions from the board, staff, audience? Machine's open.
Yes.
Yes as well. All in favor?
Item 6L, a resolution to provide insurance for the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District for the ferry boats and its assets for the period of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blank.
I'd like to offer, but do y'all have any information on this. It sounded like things weren't quite baked with the
Right,
insurance company.
that's correct. And then there will be an amendment once we get the, everything issued.
Okay.
We'll be able to get the final numbers, and then we will make an amendment
Or-
to
or-
the legislation to whatever her final numbers will be.
all right. And this might be a procedural question, but are we going to have a special meeting to make sure those ferry boats are covered with insurance?
No.
Okay, all right. All right, I'd like to offer.
Second.
Seconded by Cognovich. Any questions? All right, machines are open.
Yes.
Same, yes.
Okay.
9-0, all in favor.
Item 6M, a resolution to provide port employees group coverages existing of health, dental, vision, and life for the policy period of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blank.
I'd like to offer.
Second.
Seconded by LaFrance. All right, any questions about health insurance for employees? All right, hearing now, machine is open.
Yes.
Same. All right, 9-0, all in favor. Item 9, please.
Item 6N, a resolution to provide insurance for the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District for the port rescue boats and assets for a period of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blank.
I'd like to offer it.
Second.
Second by Cognovich. Questions on insurance? All right, machines are open.
Yes.
Yes. All in favor?
Item 6O, a resolution authorizing the Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District to exercise the option to extend the audit services agreement for an additional 2 years adopted by Resolution Number 19-25 for the providing of independent financial auditing services for the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District for a period of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blank.
Sure. I'd like to offer it. And I'd like to add, too, the other day I was at a restaurant holding the door, and somebody from this particular business said, I finally found a job that I was good at. So I'll be voting accordingly. I'd like to proceed with the vote.
Second.
Second by Cognovich. Verbal no.
Yes. I don't blame you.
Item 6P, a resolution approving the final form of and authorizing the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal and CHS Inc., and any and all additional documents and certificates deemed necessary in connection therewith, and providing for other matters with respect to the foregoing, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blank.
I'd like to offer it as read.
Second.
Second by Cognovich. Any questions?
Did we have a copy of that agreement?
It's, with the agreement, but there was some other information that was sent out today.
Yeah, the agreement with CHS, we provided the introduction. The attorneys are finalizing all the details, but we have to get in an agreement of the resolution so we can provide to the federal government so that they show that the board and CHS are in agreement to have a CEA so that it's deemed fully shovel-ready and ahead of the line.
The only problem is there's a blank sheet for Exhibit A, which is the agreement. So we're approving something that we don't even have a copy of?
Well, the agreement is baked into the application, which we provided to you last summer. And so at this point, and all the agreements are there and the resolution here, so we can get that to the feds. So we have the CEA that's finalized by the attorneys. This resolution allows us to move forward with the feds. If we wait any longer, we're not going to get the grant, frankly. And I can provide that CEA once all the little details by the attorneys are put in. But the purpose of this right now, this resolution, is to approve that we're going into the CEA with CHS per our application, which we provided to the board last summer.
My only point is that we're approving a CEA that we don't have. You know, I don't have anything else to say. I mean, we don't have the CEA.
I asked for approval for the resolution so we can move forward in that direction and get this grant.
Mr. Valley?
Mr. Chairman, what is being requested? I'm a little lost. What are you approving? What is the CEA for?
So this would be an agreement for the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to build a loading facility for the CHS grain elevator, which is located just past the Alliance Refinery.
Who's paying for it? Where's the money coming from? What's the terms and conditions of it?
The staff could speak better to it, but it's a multi-million-dollar project that would involve several larger parts. Was mentioned earlier, there'd be a loading dock, unloading dock. There'd be a grain elevator that the company would build privately on their own. Some of this would be federal money that the port is applying for. The port would receive tariffs, and the parish would, and the other taxing bodies here would receive ad valorem taxes on the new assets that CHS is building shoreside.
Richie, I know you well. I'll be as polite as I can. You're starting to sound like Chris Fetters. Okay?
There you go.
What you
So, if you want to hear Richie Blink's opinion, I think maybe they
I
should just
appreciate
build
what
it
you're saying.
themselves.
I asked the question.
You know, why do we need to
What
be
do
in the
we
middle
do?
of it?
You know, I just wish we could see the transparency of what's going on with things and what the deals are in writing before they get approved, so that you can get public comment and that you all have due diligence that you can review what's being presented to you. Other than, we're going to miss it. If we don't get it, we're going to lose out on the money. You know,
Commissioner Bartholomew?
Times the other committees, I said, let's lose the money. We don't have it, let's don't worry about it.
Commissioner Bartholomew?
Yeah, didn't we discuss that early under discussion?
We did, it was talked about.
All right.
And it was a presentation made earlier, and, you know, I support the project. That's not the issue. The issue is, we don't have the CEA that we're voting on, and if this has been baked in since last year, I would think that we had a year to get the CEA worked together, so,
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, please.
This process started last summer when the grant was due. We were planning to see what first happens with the grant, right, so that we move forward. In the process, it was understood that we needed some type of actual agreement between the port and and CHS to show the federal government that we had some type of resolution set up. So the attorneys have gone back and forth and are finalizing all the details of it. The application shows in principle what this deal is, which we provided last summer. This document is to be able to bring to the federal government to show that the board and CHS are in agreement to move forward, and it allows us to be able to move this project to the front of the line to show that it's truly shovel-ready with this resolution.
and let me say, I understand all of that, but the point is, I'm not sure who's gonna own the property, how much the rents are gonna be, or any of those items that we have talked about over the last year. And I guess that's gonna be in the CEA, is that correct?
Correct.
So we're sitting here.
And it's also, as we also put it in the application, and it's within the whereases of this legislation.
Does
We have
anybody-
discussed it, excuse me, we have discussed this for 6 months. We were trying to move forward. This resolution will significantly benefit getting the grant, which will result in almost $100 million of private investment by CHS into the parish.
Look, I understand all of that. The point is, okay, let me ask a specific question. How much rent are we gonna collect off of the project? How much, I'm asking a question. How much rent are we gonna collect off of the project?
As we have shown, and we have told you, there are administrative funds with the project There are tariff increases that are in this legislation that shows it. And we're getting $14 million in the lease as part of the match to build this facility. Nothing has changed in the last 6 months when we first reported this to you and provided the application. And I would ask that this board, as we move forward, please vote on this resolution so that we can move forward and let CHS know and the feds know that this board supports moving forward with this grant.
I'm going to withdraw my offer and let somebody else pick this legislation up because it's not complete. Does anybody else want to take it?
I'll offer.
Offered by Black, seconded by Gouy. Are there any questions?
Yes, listen, much needed project, but the process stinks, man. Then here again, we gotta start doing the right thing, man. Just do the right thing for the people. The people are watching, guys. You can't hide forever. Do the right thing for the people.
Hi, Mr. Fortier.
Okay, I've got a question. What is the total cost to this project? Chairman?
Over $120 million in this project when you add all the private investment.
So I guess what I read, where this thing is getting in the 800-900 million range is not true?
I don't know what project you're talking about for $900 million. This is CHS, sir.
CHS, it's all the docks and the silos and all of the work that's going to be done on the expansion of the grain elevator for everyone's knowledge of who CHS is. And I'm talking about anybody that doesn't know CHS is the grain elevator, correct? So that thing is only $100 million or $200 million for all that work?
Yeah, for us not spending any money, $120 million is a lot of money. Yes, sir.
There's different components too, right? The dock is what we're here to talk about tonight, the dock and the conveyor belt. They would own shoreside assets, silos.
Okay, so this legislation, this CEA that y'all are talking about is only for $180 million.
It's blank.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Tony Siblish. Just a couple of questions. The cost of the project's over $100 million. How much is actually being spent by the parish? How much does the parish have to put out?
Zero.
What information on the CEA has the council not seen before?
The parish is not involved in this project, sir.
Not involved at all.
The parish is not
On the
involved,
CEA,
just the
you
port.
said you gave them I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's public record. You actually go on our website. It's been there for the last 6 months of our application to the feds for the Port Infrastructure Development Program, which the board has approved us moving forward with. That application states everything about the process. The process is that the port applies for the $20 million from the feds. But the port or public entity needs to have at least a 20% match for the request from the federal government. The port nor the parish is putting in 1 cent into that match. CHS is putting in a match, not at 20%, but 40%, at $14 million. And they're putting in an additional, now $97 million of private investment into their terminal to optimize the terminal, which would increase cargo tonnage into the port, which as a result would increase tariff revenue to the port. On top of that, there's a safety dynamic. So we have 3 vessels, security vessels. 2 are docked in Belle Chase, 1 is docked in Venice. That is 80 miles of waterfront that Donald Durr and his team is responsible for from a security standpoint. As a result of this new dock, we will now be able to put one of the docks from Belle Chase at the new dock. As a result, it will decrease our response time in that area, which, as we know, has a significant amount of development and future development, decrease the response time by 50 minutes, which has a financial qualifier to that as well. But the parish and the port are not out of pocket in any way for this grant. And if we get it, there's $100 million of private investment by CHS, and we receive a pretty significant asset, and we decrease our response time within the middle of the 80 miles of the river that we're responsible for.
And just for clarification, on this CEA agreement, is that visible anywhere? It is visible on a website someplace?
When it is finalized, we will provide that. That's no problem. But right now, we have to get this resolution passed so we can get it to the feds to show that it is shovel-ready and it moves again in front of the line, because they are going to make a decision within the next 3 to 5 weeks, if not sooner.
So the worst case scenario is the parish is still out nothing with a chance for improved revenue.
With a chance of $100 million. There you go. Thank you, sir.
It'd just be nice to know what the lease payment is on the dock and some pretty basic stuff that needs to be in the legislation. I mean, it's not too much to ask for. There's a whole team of staff over at the port. Y'all been working on this for a long time. It should just be here. And it's not. That's where we're at. It's a two-way street. It's not us not wanting to do this. It's habeas corpus. Bring forth the corpse. Tell us what it's going to be. That's all we want.
Noted.
Yeah, and my point is, I support the project. I've always supported the project. I just want to know what the CEA says that I'm voting on and approve. That's all. Because
We've discussed
devil's
it,
always
those
in
are
the
whereases.
details.
And we'll provide it to you as soon as I have it, sir. But I ask for the board's vote. Thank you.
Question.
Question.
I'm abstaining on the vote.
Voting yes. And it passes with one verbal no. I'm sorry, one verbal abstention.
Item 6Q, a resolution authorizing Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District's Executive Director, Menard Sandy Sanders, to request that the 276.6 acre parcel of port-owned property known as Tract DR-2A1 be designated as a magnet site in connection with the port's application for a foreign trade zone grant of authority, and authorizing the executive director to apply for the FTZ grant of authority for the Plaquemines Parish Service Area, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Blink.
I'd like to offer as read. Are there any seconds?
Second.
Second by Bartholomew. Are there any questions? Hearing none, machine's open. We got a verbal yes.
Yes.
All right, passes 9-0.
Motion to adjourn.
Gotta
Young Huddle.
accept the minutes.
We- Yes. All right, I'd like to move to 7C, please.
Item 7C, public hearing with respect to the issuance of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District Dock and Wharf Facilities Revenue Bonds, Nola Oil Terminal LLC Project, Series 2022, in one or more series, in an aggregate face amount not to exceed $300 million outstanding at any time. Commissioner Blink.
I'd like to offer as read. Second by Brother Russo. Sure. Are there any questions by the audience or the board staff? Yes, sir, Mr. Henry.
Have the State Bond Commission voted on this already?
Yes.
Not yet, huh?
Yes, I believe
They
that.
voted on it already?
Yes.
Did they?
We,
Okay.
and just to repeat for the record, it has been approved by the bond commission.
Yes, and this is a public hearing to ask if there's any comments or opposition or favor of this project. Hearing none.
That's it. Okay. All right, moving along the agenda, please.
You got to vote for it? Oh, no voting.
Motion to adjourn by Cognovich. Yeah, we do. Which is why I'd like to run the meeting.
Item 8,
Run it.
approval of the November 4th, 2021 meeting, the November 29th, 2021 special meeting, and the 2022 proposed budget hearing minutes.
Offered by Russo, I'll second. Machine's open on the minutes. Verbal yes.
Yes.
9-0 on the minutes. All right, motion to adjourn by Cognovich, second by Russo. Machine's open when able. Yes. Nine oh on the minutes. Thank y'all very much. I'd like to call this meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council, serving as the sole governing authority, of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to close at 5:39 PM.